whether through the legitimate oil sale by the federal government and now the outrageous and audacious stealing and refining, Nigeria's sweet crude is having a sore commentary in recent times. Stories now abound in public domain following our reports on the extent of theft and consequences seen in the sharp drop of production numbers for one of OPEC's significant members. Earlier, Channels Television brought you exclusive pictures, the first by any media station in Nigeria, of one of the suspected stealing points. That offshore platform is known as the Afremo A platform offshore Escravos and is owned by Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria. So this oil platform has 3 main pipelines traveling from here all the way to Escravos, and it is buried under the sea and through this swamp. This is what happens. There are 3 lines here. This is the test line, and that's the line they have decided to use. So it tells you that this is very active. If you look at this line, you see that it's not active. Everything around here is dried. The same with that other one. You can see the screws, the nuts are all dried up. But if you see this place, it raises suspicion. Now, whenever they're ready to siphon oil, they remove this, tighten it all back. It tells you, look at this, it tells you that this is active. This is very active. I mean, it's not well screwed and all of that. So it tells you they do this regularly. They open this valve. Of course, this travels all the way into onshore. So it goes all the way whenever they are ready. You can see that there's nothing connected to this exit point. It's a test line. It is not supposed to be an active line. But look at this. This tells you there's been a fresh onslaught. There's been fresh discharge from this point. This is crude, not engine oil, not any other thing. This is crude. So they connect a hose to this place and run it to a vessel, a flatbed vessel, not the very big ones, a flatbed vessel that can take between like 4 or 5 tons to about 6 tons because of the draft of this side of the water. And so how do you know that this is an active platform? Because if it wasn't, look at this place. Look at this. Look at this. The same point. This is active crude. If this wasn't active, then this crude shouldn't be here. Look at it. This is crude oil. It should be sealed up like this, or sealed up like this, covered. But see, so where is the cover of this pipe is the question. We asked Shell's representative what they knew of this connection, or why, despite their claimed surveillance apparatus, didn't capture this.
We did not know of this thing until when our guys discovered it, when they're doing ground trotting.
When was that?
That was on the 1st of this month of October.
Just 1 month ago?
Yes, one week ago.
Just 1 week ago?
Yes.
Interesting.
So let's go to the next one.
Interesting. 1 week ago. Given the number of years this might have gone on, the quantity stolen will fall in the region of millions. It was a daring undertaking to follow the crude line to this 2.5 miles location using boats, but an effort worth the risk. No one expects the scale of investigation to be meager. What will be interesting and deterring will be the sheer number of persons who may be involved in these years of suspected racket and how they will be prosecuted, especially how retribution will be made to the country Nigeria. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Well, Martin Onovo joins us this morning. He is a petroleum engineer and a former presidential candidate of the NCP. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
There isn't any need for any prologue, but you saw all of that. What do you make of it?
Well, I'm not surprised. It's not new. We live in a very dysfunctional environment, and this has been happening for a long time, and everybody's aware. It's just that I think that this is the highest scale we have seen, and also the circumstances of the economy now caused the alarm that has led to all this, because you know, it was reported that for 4 months, the NNPC did not pay anything to the Federation account. So everybody's interest is there. I mean,
But where the GMD of the NNPCL said this has been on for more than 22 years, but they discovered this pipe that's been there for about 13 years or thereabouts.
well, they keep changing their story. So we also need to question their credibility. They started with it was 7 years, then they claimed it was 9 years. How come you know how long it is if you didn't put it there? There are a few things that are clear that nobody can question. We had the case of the African Pride, marine tanker African Pride, that we lost. I'm not sure the right choice of words. We lost in Navy custody. How the Nigerian Navy loses a marine tanker that was arrested for crude oil theft. I think that was 2004 or thereabouts. So the case of the MT African Pride is there. 2 or 3 naval admirals got sacked on that case, and there were allegations of $5 million in bribe on that case. So that's why I say I'm not surprised. It's nothing new.
So $5 million in bribe.
Yes.
And somebody was, someone bailed the cat, so to speak.
Yes, I like your choice of words.
Now, if someone,
I think 2 admirals.
got the raps for that.
2 admirals.
Some people got the raps for that, and they gave bribes. Wasn't there any investigation to say, okay, these are the people that were also involved in this?
Well, the way this thing is, from my point of view, I don't want to assert what I'm not 100% sure of, because this is criminal, so it's underground. But we can give scenarios. The way this thing is, it's a rogue cop situation. That's what it is. It's a rogue cop situation. So the policeman that is supposed to arrest the armed robber is the armed robber himself. So who will arrest the armed robber?
My turn to say, I like your choice of words, rogue cop.
It's a rogue cop situation.
Which brings me to the oil platform, where this latest, oil theft has been discovered, belonging to Shell. Can Shell afford to stand back and be neutral amid this theft? Should questions be asked of Shell, and should we be getting answers?
It's clearly a very large syndicate of syndicates. This is not easy to do.
What is not easy to do?
Oil theft on this scale. Of course, on the scale of what you people call illegal refineries, that I call pollution plants, because as a professional, I can't call those things refineries. They are pollution plants.
Well, the NNPC calls them cooking pots.
Okay. But the media calls them illegal refineries. I find that not suitable, because the damage they are doing is very significant. It seems to mitigate the level of damage they are doing. So those ones are stealing crude. There's no question.
Who are those ones?
The pollution plants that we call illegal refineries.
But you haven't answered her question about should Shell be answering questions?
I'm trying to link it all, because crude oil theft is not only this export level, which is the biggest level. There's also that level of so many pollution plants stealing at so many different points. Speaking professionally, in any typical design and typical operation, the lines have meters on your source and have meters on your sink. That's number one. Number two, lines have performance. So the engineers in charge and even the operators know the performance of their lines. If you compromise any line, operator should know. Because, for example, the first thing you notice is a pressure drop. Second thing is that your metering at your source and your metering at your sink has disparity. So it's impossible to do these things. These things only happen in Nigeria.
So now...
It's impossible to do these things.
Impossible to do what?
This oil theft is impossible, but it happens in Nigeria.
Essentially, what are you saying by that? The hunter is also the hunted?
Oh, yes, that's the road cop, number one. Okay. Secondly, I'm saying it's a syndicate of syndicates.
So when you say syndicate of syndicates, I'm trying to understand, because we've had government in this country well before 22 years ago. We've had governments active in this country for 22 years. No break whatsoever, especially at the federal level. So if this has been happening and you're saying it is impossible to happen, and it is happening, what then could be the implication? Are you saying that government agencies are sleeping on the job, or what exactly are you?
No. Sleeping on the job will be very mild. The presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party directly accused the federal government of Nigeria. Directly at the MBA conference. Directly. And I will tell you with full professional authority, having been in this industry all around the world, Europe, North America, Africa, that I think he's right.
And to add to that...
Sorry, Bukola. When you say you are joining him to accuse the federal government,
yes.
let's decrypt government.
Thank you very much. For example, for marine operations, exports, the Navy provides security. Let us take the case of this MT Heroic Idun. The first thing is that you guys need to appreciate that the level of theft we are talking about is not a 20-liter jerry can. That particular vessel, this recent one of August, is what you classify in IMO, International Maritime Organization, as VLCC, very large crude carrier. It does over 2 million barrels, my brother. Barrels, not liters. 1 barrel is 159 liters. So understand the phenomenal quantities we're talking about. You need to understand that. It's not a mobile phone you put in your pocket and you hide and nobody sees you. Security man does not see you. This is funny.
And as a very quick follow-up to that,
Sorry, just one more sentence. That particular vessel, you know how long a 100 meters dash lane is? That particular vessel is longer than 300 meters. Now, is this something that the Navy cannot see? It's almost half a kilometer in length. It's a very large crude carrier. It carries over 2 million barrels. This one is reported to have capacity for 3 million barrels. Now, the Nigerian Navy is telling childish stories and the media is allowing them to get away with it. It entered our waters, you were not aware. It loaded at a legitimate platform. It left our waters, only to be arrested in Equatorial Guinea. So you are now admitting that the Equatorial Guinea Navy is superior to our capacity. So there are just too many things the media allows these people to get away with at press conferences. They just talk nonsense and we let them get away with it.
But the president is the Minister of Petroleum.
No, but people are talking. For example, the GMD spoke. And to me, from where he spoke, if the energy correspondents had confronted him properly, he would leave the position. And nobody would dare this kind of nonsense. It was the same thing he did when we had the case of the off-spec PMS product. I also said that is impossible based on the routine. It cannot happen.
And the man leading
so the day you compromise a line, the engineers and the operators know that same day. So you can't be telling a story like this.
The man leading the charge in the discovery of this, oil theft has also made some very daring allegations that the route through which this siphoned oil pass are manned by security agents.
Oh, clearly now.
In the persons of,
very
Navy
clearly.
officials and soldiers. So are you looking forward to seeing any significant prosecution, arrest, and a demand of accountability by this government from those who are involved in line with these allegations?
Well, I can tell you that we have seen so far, this case of the Heroic Idun is since August, this October. So any government that is really interested in investigating anything would have made progress after 2 months. But what we're hearing is stories and fairy tales and childish acts of irresponsibility and even impunity. The very same thing why did we as a people, because we need to stop blaming people in power and blame ourselves. Why did we as a people allow them? The more recent one was the off-spec PMS product. Why did we allow them to get away with it? I mean, that one was explained in such a senseless and unprofessional way, and we let them get away with it.
But what can people do really?
No, the first thing is if you interrogate it, and then the facts become clearer instead of these dirty stories they tell. For example, in the case of the PMS, the Minister of State says inspection failure. Meaningless to me as a professional. The GMD of NNPC said that the test schedule does not include methanol. Silly, completely silly. Completely unprofessional. Imbecilic. But you can even see the inconsistency in their two stories. Now, I've done this for this country.
Let me now come in there with
so
this.
I know how it is done.
I don't know if
how what is done.
Shipping products. I know how it's done. It's very simple. In any port where you're shipping or terminal, first, if it is Nigeria, you have DSS, you have customs. Now, if a vessel comes to my terminal to load, I have my custody transfer metering systems. The vessel has its own custody transfer metering systems. Then normally you nominate inspectors. Do you understand? And this is the standard worldwide. For example, how many people in Nigeria know that just like your vehicle is registered and has plate number, every vessel, marine vessel, has IMO registration, and they are tracked online real time. Every registered IMO vessel, you can say where it is at any point in time, globally, unless it's not IMO registered, in which is a criminal vessel. So it is impossible for these things to happen. I don't know how else to explain it. But they happen because I will say it's a rogue cop situation. And I'm not the only one saying it. Other professionals like myself, like Engineer Alex Ney, has said it. That government better stop telling this kind of silly stories.
Mr. Noble,
yes.
If this has gone on for a very long time, why now? Why the renewed, why the vigor that we see now in the discovery of illegal pipelines, oil theft, and all of that? Why now?
It's first is that this thing is beneficial. What do I mean is beneficial? If you look at the case of this recent case of Heroic Idun, 3 million barrels, $100 per barrel, that's $300 million. If you do that 3 times, you have $1 billion. So you understand, it's very beneficial. And all the syndicates can get enough money. And all the members of each syndicate can get enough money. So that's number one. Number two, what you tolerate. And that's why I'm saying we need to blame ourselves, because we tolerate all this. These things are not new. We tolerate them. These people call press conferences and they talk nonsense and we let them get away. So we're tolerating it. And then we put it on the front page, making ourselves look stupid and incompetent.
So what should the people do? What should the media do? You know, I mean, from the report that you saw, on the screen just before we came on, Channels Television went much deeper than...
Oh, yes, and did what nobody else has done before. Showed the tap.
That's all the media can do.
No, the media can do a lot more. No, the media can do a lot more. The media can do a lot more.
Before you crucify us in the media, let me point this out. Just recently, about 4 months or thereabout ago, the Rivers State governor, went around his own state saying, look, these things are illegal. I may not have authority over petroleum resources and all of that because it's in the exclusive list, but I know criminality when I see one. What's wrong with other state governors or governments in the oil-producing areas doing the same and calling out the people who are... Because there are those who would say, if the state governments themselves had made noise the way the River State governor made noise, albeit late because there have been governments before him, why not other state governors do that?
The first thing is that I will not think that ordinarily a state governor has sufficient capacity for that. What do I mean? because, like the Rivers governor says, responsibility. Responsibility. For example, yes, you will say constitutionally he's chief security officer, but we know he doesn't command any police. We know he doesn't command the military. We know that. So I will say the principal institutions will be the oil companies themselves. But you also listen to them and they say, what can we do? The people are armed, they are dangerous, the security agencies are not.
My point here.
Let's get everybody.
My point here,
yes.
because I understand also what the CDS said, the Chief of the Defense Staff, and the GMD of the NNPCL has also said. But then there is also the concern of the communities. I just recently, I think Mr. Government Pampolo or something was saying that, look, all of our aquatic life is gone.
Oh, clearly not.
And it's as a result of this. That is something governors of the oil-producing areas have authority over. They can do something to protect their own people, protect the economic life of their people. But with all of that going on, it's clearly... So that's the point that I'm making about governors themselves going out and saying, we need to bring this to the fore so that we can put an end to it.
If you insist on that, you remember the case of the River State governor that you're talking about, saying that one of the police commanders was operating an illegal refinery. So who's going to stop him? Where is weakest police to stop an illegal refinery operated by a police commander? Where is his own police? So you can say all these things and we can pretend and say, you should have taken care of it, or I should have taken care of it. Let's deal with it.
Okay,
because
so if governments, state governments cannot do it, what can the media do?
A lot.
You just said it now,
yes.
that a government that has executive powers does not have power.
You forgot
Our
that,
job
you forgot that
is to call people out, tell them that you are accountable. You're supposed to be accountable to your people, which is what we're doing.
No, don't make a mistake of thinking that I'm putting the media on trial, because the media didn't steal the crude.
No, we didn't.
I'm not putting the media on trial. The media didn't steal the crude. I'm just saying that, for example, the Constitution says the media holds the government accountable to the people. That's the side I'm going to. That's what the Constitution says. That's not my opinion. That's what our Constitution, Nigerian Constitution, says. And I'm saying that if the GMD of NNPC calls a press conference and talks nonsense, he should be asked questions that show that what he's talking is nonsense. Not he gets a clap and then all the front pages carry the nonsense. And then the ordinary people believe that that is the right thing.
I'm wondering what that nonsense is, but Chamberlain has a question for you.
I've given you many examples.
Chamberlain, go ahead.
Many examples.
Well, Mr. Onofo, clearly, I mean, there's so many things that don't add up. So many questions about this kind of thing. And players in that sector, too, I mean, several of them will be reading several pieces from a lot of them who always tell us that, look, that these kind of things, it's not something that a small fry can do. And,
thank you very much for that.
For instance, you know, if there's no pressure on the pipe, or if there's pressure on the pipe, you know you can't go and clamp anything on that. So they have to have information before you go in there and execute certain things. And then we know these crews, they've got their signature. For any tanker to go in and load, you have to have the coordinates. So there's several things that don't add up on this. I mean, just to mention a few of those. But from your perspective, being a petroleum engineer, knowing how some of these things work, because now they've tried to tell us that it's, what, is it put there in 9 years or is it 8 years? Many will always say, okay, first, how did they know it was that long? And then, if it was 8 or 9 years, it's a simple thing. We just go back and check how much were we producing at that time, if it was that time. How much are we producing now? So clearly, some persons may be trying to hide some things, so that would not be new. But if you were to advise, and the president is the Minister of Petroleum, so the buck stops at his table, what would you advise he does to ensure that if we can't get to the bottom, but at least they put in place the right system and structure to ensure that these kind of things will address the very core reason why this is happening?
Well, just to agree with you, I will also add that the president is not just the Minister of Petroleum. He's the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He's the chief responsibility officer of the government of Nigeria. So all this is his responsibility, not just oil production and oil theft. Everything is his responsibility. He's the chief responsibility officer. And he must take responsibility. And part of taking responsibility is to admit that he has failed in his responsibility, because otherwise these things cannot happen like I said. They are impossible. They are happening, but they are impossible from our perspective as professionals. And that is why if you hear any handsome professional talk about this, he's dismissive about it. It is not possible. There are too many checks. And I just gave you the example of vessel enter our territory. Navy should know. You should enter with an NPC clearance if you are coming to load. The clearance says everything, including how much you're supposed to load. Now, who loads you? Now, like I said, if you compromise my line today, I will know today because I know the performance of my line. The day you compromise my line, I will know. So, and that's why I said, there are too many syndicates. And like you, Chamberlain said, how do they know when the line is active if it is not a regular routine production line, like a loading line? A loading line, how do you know when I'm going to load? Even when I was doing this for this country, it is when I'm told that get ready to load, a vessel is coming. That's when I know. We're expecting a vessel in 2 days. You guys get ready to load. That's when I know. So
yeah,
the
second part of this, Mr. Nova,
yes,
is that, pardon me to jump in, do you know,
sure,
as much as, yes, the buck stops at the president's table, but the experts in this industry are the ones who are doing the job right there. So, because he will ultimately rely on them to do whatever he directs them to do. And one wonders, just in the back and looking through, but there are lots of professionals in this sector. The IOCs are there. They're supposed to operate at the highest levels of international standards. So how is it that all of this is happening with all those professionals who, at least, we don't know, didn't blow the whistle, as it were?
You will be very unfair to the professionals, because they blew the whistle and they have been blowing it, and they have been blowing it repeatedly. And I know a few companies that have shut down significant production because of this. And it's been even in the media where the companies are complaining. And that's why I told you earlier that if you compromise my line today, I will know today. It's not tomorrow that I get to know. In addition, for modern systems that have what we call SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System, you're sitting in a control room and you see everything online real time. So and that's why I say these things are impossible. And that's why you need to understand that it is done at a very high level. For example, this vessel now, this Heroic Idun, one of the reports says operated by Transfigura. Transfigura is a registered NNPC oil trader. And that's why I started with the rogue cop situation. So sometimes, if it's a rogue cop situation and you're reporting the crime to the rogue cop himself, I don't know what you really expect. Because if you look clearly and critically and at the statements made by the Chief of Naval Staff, you will see that he pointed fingers at the NNPC. So why are we looking for? There are people who are responsible. Why are we looking elsewhere? And those same people who are responsible, other people have pointed fingers at them. How did a vessel, so if it is right, we can confirm, it can be verified whether it's operated by Trafigura. Trafigura has been involved in oil trading before I graduated, and I'm a retiree. so nothing is new here.
Mr. Novo, you mentioned SCADA the other time.
Yes.
I wonder if SCADA is the same as the tracker that Council approved 17 billion naira for in 2018, which was not bought till now. By our checks, it has still not been bought. Why do you think Council is going the way of a private security firm to monitor pipelines and discover all this theft rather than the tracker?
Well, first is that SCADA is you install it on your own facility. So that would be the responsibility of the oil company. I'm just saying that we will know whether we have SCADA or not. We will know what is happening with our facility. That is why we are professionals. If you compromise a line, the performance changes. The pressure characteristics change. You know your equipment, you know your systems. When it changes, you know it has changed. And using your training, you know what can cause such changes. And that's why I'm saying, if you compromise my line today, I know today, I'm not going to. In fact, within less 30 minutes, if you compromise my line, I will know.
So you know that you're saying government has known this for a very long time?
Yes, and I'm saying that the oil companies have complained, both local and international oil companies have been complaining, oil theft, oil theft.
At the end of the day, what you're saying
And I'm saying we had the case of African pride. So what were the lessons learned from African pride?
So what you are saying essentially is government has known this for a while and government is complicit.
Yes, clearly. And I'm saying that the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Prince Adebayo Adewale, said that at the NBA conference, and he was direct. He said, Nigerian government is stealing 70% of our
So
coal.
is this private security arrangement, is it worth it? The report is worth 42 billion naira.
I will say that the private security arrangement first amounts to, what's the right word, abdication? What's the right word? That government has abandoned its responsibility. Now, you want a private security organization to achieve what the Nigerian Navy cannot achieve. Are you not suggesting that the private security organization has higher capacity than the Nigerian Navy? Which is also what you suggested with Hiroiki Idun being arrested by Equatorial Guinea Navy. You couldn't arrest it. It was in your territory. Equatorial Guinea arrested. You are suggesting that Equatorial Guinea has superior naval capacity to Nigeria?
Well, you've asked more questions than we have asked.
No, I've answered all the questions.
But we have to thank you because, I mean, we can only wait for how government is going to respond to these and several other things in the light of the commitment that the CDS and the NNPC GML has made. For now,
you believe them? I don't believe them.
They said
just take note that I don't believe them.
We report.
If you choose to believe them,
we report
that's media business.
We bring
and the media, they're my friends, but they accuse me of accusing them.
Petroleum engineer. We have to thank you very much. It sounds like you're still going to be back, but for now we have to thank you very much. He's a petroleum engineer, as also former presidential candidate of the NCP. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Sunrise continues right after now with more. Please stay with us.